Hey, thanks for stopping by. My name is Tyler, and today I have some super exciting news. So, I finally scheduled my AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate exam. That is the SAA-C03, which is the most current exam as of October 1st, 2023, which is today. I scheduled it for the 28th of October, which is the last Saturday of this month. So, we still got a few weeks, but I want to talk about kind of how I'm feeling, what I'm worried about, and then what I've done so far to study. So starting off, I want to talk about kind of how I'm feeling about this exam, kind of where my confidence levels are at. So I gotta be honest with you guys, I am super nervous about this exam. It's not like any exam I've taken in the past, and there is just a lot to go through and a lot to just know and remember. And what kind of worries me most about it is just how in-depth and technical these questions can get, along with them all being situation-based, because you can have pretty much the exact same question, but have the question ask about what's the most cost-optimal way to solve this problem, or you can have the same question, but it's asking what answer is providing the highest availability for your architecture. So there's just a lot of different scenarios. And on top of that, like if you guys are studying for this exam, you'll know these questions are long and they're in depth and they're a little bit scary. I actually have one I wanted to read to you guys because wow. I think you guys are gonna like this if you aren't familiar with what the questions are like around this exam. So let me pull one up. Okay, here you go. You guys ready? A GraphQL API is hosted in an Amazon EKS cluster with Fargate launch type and deployed using AWS SAM. The API is connected to an Amazon DynamoDB table with an Amazon DynamoDB Accelerator DAX as its data store. Both resources are hosted in the US East 1 region. The AWS IAM Authenticator for Kubernetes is integrated with the EKS cluster for role-based access control and cluster authentication. A solutions architect must improve network security by preventing database calls from traversing the public internet. The associated cross-account backup for the DynamoDB table is also required for long-term retention. Which of the following should the solutions architect implement to meet the requirement? If you're curious, the correct answer is create a DynamoDB gateway endpoint, associate the endpoint with the appropriate route table, use AWS Backup to automatically copy the on-demand DynamoDB backups to another AWS account for disaster recovery. So that's just an example of kind of what these questions can be like. That is a practice question taken from Tutorials Dojo. We'll go over more of that later when I'm talking about what I've done to study thus far, but you get these really long, in-depth questions, especially from what I've read. I haven't taken the exam yet, so I can't 100% confirm, but I've done a lot of reading, and questions like that are pretty common from what I've heard. So it can be really tricky to narrow down what the question is looking for in a sea of three-letter acronyms and various services and scenarios and all of these things that the question wants you to do. When I was answering that question, what stood out to me was I was looking for a way to transfer data between your Kubernetes cluster and your database. And I know that gateway endpoints are used for S3 and DynamoDB, so that answer stuck out to me especially. And then I think data sync was part of that answer too. AWS backup, yeah. I was asking about backups, and AWS backup is a great way to manage your backups. So you can just see the questions are super in depth. There's a lot to cover, and even just knowing how to pick apart the question to understand what it's asking, what it's looking for. So yeah, I'm pretty nervous about it. I know a lot. I've been doing really well on my practice tests as of late, and I've done a ton of studying so far to prepare, but it just lingers in the back of my mind, like if I get a set of real questions on scenarios that I haven't, I guess, seen in my practice test prior to the exam. I'm just worried I won't understand what the most optimal answer is. So I am super nervous, but I've studied a lot, and what I've read online is I should be ready. So with that being covered, I also want to show you guys or tell you guys what I've done so far to study. Because I did mention I've done a lot. So let's get into it. So the first thing I used to study was the study notes or training notes by Neil Davis for this exam. It was a good book. It was hard to read because this entire book is formatted like training notes, and it's very different from other books I've read for my certifications because there's no fluff or gentle transitions between topics. It's almost like you're reading a bunch of bullet points of like facts and use cases. So definitely a tricky book to read, but it was, I think, super helpful for studying for the exam. And after that, I went ahead and watched through the A-Cloud Guru Solutions Architect course twice, and I also did the practice exams that they provided. For that course, I don't know if I can recommend it. It definitely doesn't stand on its own. It is it's kind of shallow. Things are almost oversimplified and just don't go into the depth required for the exam, or at least for the practice tests that I've been taking. The A-Cloud Guru course just isn't in depth enough to help you answer those questions. So following that, I went ahead and took the course by Stefan Marek, I think his name is. It was like a maybe $15 course on Udemy. It went into a lot more depth than the A-Cloud Guru course, and the practice exams that came along with that were also pretty good, definitely much more challenging than the A-Cloud ones, which was good. So went through all of that and felt pretty good after it. I did score pretty low on my first practice test, and his set, I think I got like a 65 or something. But scores gradually went into the mid to high 70s on the last few. So after that course, I went ahead and bought the Tutorials Dojo practice test as well. And that honestly, it's a great deal. It was like $12 or something, and you get at least 6 unique practice, I guess, sets of practice questions, and they're all super difficult. Like these questions are super in depth. They really make sure you know the intricacies of all the services. I would imagine they're pretty close to the real exam. Obviously, I'll make a video after I test to confirm that, but from everything I've read online, they're pretty close to the real thing. So as far as those go, I scored pretty well on all of them. I know the first one I didn't pass. I got like a 68 or a 69. And then the following, I think 5, I did pass with like mid to high 70s. So feeling pretty good. I am going through them again. And like today I took one and I got a 90 on it. So I feel okay. I don't feel awful as far as those go, but I am going to continue to kind of just do those practice tests over and over because they seem challenging and seem like questions that could be on the exam. And then in tandem with all of those, I guess, more focused studies, I also have been doing a lot of labs using Terraform. So like one of them is this giant cloud architecture. It's got, I don't know how many VPCs, a lot of them, along with like load balancers and firewalls and WAF and network ACLs, security groups. It's intense. Even Route 53, geo proximity routing protocols, So it's a pretty complex architecture. I've done a lot with it, and that's kind of helped me understand the services in depth. If you did see my video on why you should use infrastructure as code tools while studying for your cloud exams, you'll kind of understand the benefits of using something like Terraform to help study for your solutions architect exam. But up to this point, that is pretty much all of the resources I've used to study. I do listen to the Cloudcast when I detail, so just random bits and pieces of knowledge there too, not just pertaining to the solutions architect exam, but just kind of overall cloud concepts. Yeah, that's what I've done so far. It's taken me about 4.5 months as of today. It will be 5 by the time I actually test, and we'll just kind of have to see how it goes. Once again, I'm super nervous for it, but as shown by my practice test results, I think I'm pretty close to being ready. I don't know. It's nerve-wracking for sure. I don't know how to feel about this one. I mean, you look at an exam like the CCNA, and it's a behemoth of a test. I mean, I've said this before, but the textbooks are like 1,500 pages or something crazy. And with that exam, it's still scenario based, but it's very, I guess, set and defined. There's no real room for you to just put your input into the question or what's like the best answer. It's more along the lines of, can you calculate spanning tree protocol? Yes or no. Either you're going to calculate it right and get the right answer, or you're not. Another example like OSPF, which route is the packet going to take? Either you know how OSPF works or you don't. There's no, well, what's the best answer? Which AWS service should you use? You can use all of them and they would all work, but which one is the best one? So very different exam from a lot of the other ones I've taken, so not super sure how to feel about it, but that's all I had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do have study tips for me, by all means leave them in the comments. I love to read my comments. I respond to all of you guys. Wish me luck. I don't know if I'll have another video posted until after I test, so the next video you might see might just be the results of my test. So we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to stay optimistic. Don't want to worry myself to death, but thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your week.